Hey everyone, these short guides are aimed at giving you everything you need to know to win with a champion in a nice quick format that you could watch even in champion select before you load into a game. And for the first one, we're going to look at Gnar. So Gnar is going to be one of the safest top laners that you can play. He brings pretty good damage, some poke, some crowd control with that big engage, and high mobility to pretty much any team. He is, however, one of the harder to play to the full potential with his Mega Gnar and rage management. You need to set up fights well, manage that rage properly, and try not to get jumped on the first early game. Your keystone is going to be Grasp. That elevates your trading, allowing you to heal and deal damage with the poke that you're going to do anyway. And the other runes here are to make you more tanky or to let you heal for even more. For skill order, we're maxing our Q first for more damage. That's what we'll use most of the time. We have our W, which deals more percentage damage, and then E finally for the cooldown. Your core items in this build are going to be Stride Breaker, Steric's Gauge, and Plated Steel Cap. So ideally, that's a Hearthbound Axe on your first spec. Stride Breaker gives pretty good stats, but also move speed when you deal damage and lets you lunge chasing much easier. Steric's Gauge is going to give you a bit more damage and then healing with a big shield as well when you get low. Usually when you go tank, you'll then be getting a Deadman's, which lets you get into fights. You'll be getting a Thornmail for the armor and the grievous wounds, and Force of Nature for the magic resist. If you want to mix that up though, Black Cleaver is a solid item when against more tanky targets, and Randuin's Omen can actually replace Deadman's or Thornmail as another armor item more against auto attackers. When you're against easier lanes, you can bully with auto attacks and not really have to worry too much about them getting on top of you early game. These lanes normally mean that you can push and poke and build a really big advantage. Now against hard lanes, that's going to be completely different. They'll be able to sustain through your poke or get on top of you, winning trades and pushing you away from the wave. If you aren't able to poke before that, your best bet is to farm and just wait for team fights, because if you walk too far forwards, they will jump on top of you and probably kill you. Gnar is also much easier to play when you aren't solely reliant on his engage, or at least have some really good follow-up afterwards. So junglers like Hecarim and Elise can follow up well and can snowball you with ganks. Junglers like Kayn and Kha'Zix are a bit different, but they can bring some really good damage after and then clean up as well. So during the late phase, your early game is not really that good, so you don't want to overextend. You just want to constantly poke, ideally with auto attack, Q auto attack. You want to focus on proccing your hyper damage, which is your W, and that will give you move speed as well, then allowing you to run away. Bonus points, by the way, if you combine that with your Grasp proc. You want to aim to build a lead by level 6, at which point you're then much scarier, and you can kind of push and look for those early tower plates in the gold. Before your first items, you want to make sure you auto attack as much as possible, even in Mega Gnar, so you have enough damage for that kill. During teamfights then, firstly, when you have teleport, you should be in a side lane pushing and trying to get towers or poke and pressure the enemy top laner. Manage your rage so that you will hit Mega Gnar just as a teamfight breaks out, getting off a really big ultimate into ideally a wall. You can also do this by hopping onto a tank in front of you and then flashing into their backline, making it much easier to engage. Even just scooping them backwards towards your team will be pretty good. Hopefully after that, you're just playing cleanup and you're harassing the enemy carries as much as possible and just kind of being annoying. Finally, let's move on to a few extra tips. So part of the reason you're weak early is because your attack range actually scales with levels. At level 1, you have a 0 bonus range. At level 9, you have a 47 bonus. And at level 18, you're basically having the range of an AD carry. You are also able to stun people on the other side of walls with your ultimate. It's a bit weird, but in theory, you can be on one side and scoop them towards you and still actually stun them. You can also extend your boomerang range by throwing it behind you and then moving out of the way. The distance is actually much higher on the return, so you can poke from even further away. So that wraps up a guide to hopping around as Gnar. Good luck on the Rift.